Jax wiped the sweat from his brow as he stepped into the sprawling marketplace of Zalara Prime. The air was thick with the smell of exotic spices, fried foods, and something distinctly alien. Stalls stretched as far as the eye could see, each crowded with merchants shouting in a dozen different languages, selling everything from glowing fruits to metal gadgets that hummed softly. Jax was here for one simple thing: meat. He had promised his crew a special dinner tonight, and Zalara Prime was famous for offering cuts that no human market could even dream of. He had his credits ready, his appetite hungry, and his mind focused. But fate, as usual, had other plans. He approached a small, dusty stall tucked in a corner, away from the main crowds. The sign above it read, "Exotic Delights, Fresh and Rare." The vendor, a short, nervous-looking alien with scales that shimmered like oil on water, waved him over. "Looking for the finest cuts, yes? The rarest flavors?" The vendor hissed, his voice full of excitement. "Yes," Jax said. "I want something special. Something my crew will remember." The vendor nodded and, with a dramatic flourish, pulled a large crate from beneath the stall. Inside were what looked like small cages. Jax leaned over, expecting to see exotic animals, maybe some tiny horned beasts or glowing insects. Instead, he froze. Inside the cages were two beings that looked like nothing he had ever seen before. They were humanoid, but their skin shimmered faintly in blue and purple hues. Their eyes were large and bright, filled with intelligence and unmistakable fear. Their slender hands gripped the bars as if trying to make sense of the strange human staring at them. Jax's mouth went dry. These aren't meat, are they?" he asked cautiously. The vendor chuckled nervously, brushing a bead of sweat from his brow. Minor misunderstanding. Very fresh. Rare delicacy. Very special." Jax narrowed his eyes. Something about the way the vendor avoided looking at him told him that this was definitely not what he thought he was buying. Before he could react further, the vendor slapped a stack of credits on the counter. 2 for the price of 1. "Very lucky day." Jax stared at the cages, then at the credits, and then back at the cages. The sisters, he assumed they were sisters, looked scared but defiant. Their eyes met his, and in that instant he understood. They were sentient. Jax exhaled slowly and made a decision. "All right," he said firmly. "I'll take them." The vendor's eyes widened. "But you don't eat them?" Jax shook his head. "No, and you better not try to follow me either." He grabbed the cages, hefting them with surprising ease. The sisters' expression softened slightly. Cautious hope replaced fear. The marketplace outside was a chaotic swirl. Shouts of merchants, clanking of metal, and the occasional explosion of a fruit vendor's crate made moving through it a challenge. Jax weaved through the crowd, keeping a protective arm on the cages. "So, you're not going to eat us?" One of the sisters asked in a soft voice, her tone melodic yet cautious. "Nope," Jax said with a grin. "I buy exotic meat all the time. I know what meat looks like." "You don't look like meat." The sisters exchanged a glance and then giggled quietly. The sound was musical and light, and Jax couldn't help smiling. Humor was universal, it seemed. "My name's Lyra," said the taller sister, her skin a bright shimmer of cobalt blue. "This is my sister Tira, and you are—" "Jax," he replied. "I run a trading ship, and apparently today I run a rescue mission too." Lyra tilted her head, clearly processing this new information. "A rescue? From him?" She nodded toward the vendor, who was yelling at a couple of guards in the distance, waving his arms frantically. "Exactly," Jax said. "Looks like they're not happy that I took you without paying. More than I already did." He started moving faster, weaving through alleys and side streets. The marketplace guards had no interest in chasing him. He wasn't a criminal officially. But the vendor's hired bounty hunters were now on his tail. 2 large armored figures appeared ahead, blocking his escape. Lyra hissed, stepping back instinctively. Tira grabbed her hand. Jax smiled, ever calm under pressure. "Don't worry. Humans are good at thinking fast." He reached into one of his cargo pockets and pulled out a small device, a compact, handheld holographic projector. With a flick of his wrist, a blinding flash of light erupted, forming multiple illusionary copies of the cages across the street. The bounty hunter stopped, blinking in confusion, unsure which target to pursue. "Run," Jax shouted, and they did. Lyra and Tira moved with surprising agility, their movements fluid and elegant. Jax realized they weren't just smart, they were strong and fast. Not meat at all. Once they were clear of the hunters, Jax ducked into a quiet side alley and set the cages down gently. He looked at the sisters. Okay, you're safe for now, but we need a plan. Tira looked around nervously. Plan? You mean, what will happen to us? Exactly, Jax said. I can't take you back to the market, that's obvious. And I can't just leave you here. So we're going to my ship. It's safe. I have food, water, and something you humans call beds. He grinned awkwardly. Lyra's eyes widened. A ship? You take us into space? Yep, Jax said. Human ingenuity, our specialty. They walked quickly, avoiding open streets and moving through shadowed alleys. Lyra and Tira began to relax, their curiosity overcoming fear. They asked endless questions about Jax's ship, human planets, and even about Earth, which he described with exaggerated pride. He told them about skyscrapers that scraped the sky, oceans that stretched farther than they could see, and forests where sunlight danced on the leaves. And you humans, you do all this on your own? Tira asked, wide-eyed. Well, yeah, Jax said. We like challenges. Makes life more fun. By the time they reached his ship, a sleek freighter docked at the edge of the city. The sun was dipping behind Zalara Prime's twin moons. Jax opened the cargo bay and helped the sisters climb inside. Their eyes sparkled at the size of the ship, the blinking control panels and the warm lighting. This is amazing, Lyra whispered. I never knew anything like this existed. Jax smiled. Welcome to human ingenuity. We're messy, loud, sometimes reckless, but we try to do the right thing. And that means rescuing people even if we weren't planning to. Tira's eyes softened. You are different from other humans. Most just care about credits, yeah, Jax said. Some do, but not all of us. He leaned against the control panel and sighed. The market chaos, the bounties, the strange turn of events, it had all been a surprise. But for the first time in a long while, he felt proud. Proud that he could make a difference, even in a small way. Lyra and Tira sat on the floor of the cargo bay, their hands resting lightly on the edge of the cages, still cautious but no longer fearful. They were beginning to trust him, and Jax felt the weight of responsibility settle comfortably on his shoulders. Outside, the marketplace continued to buzz, unaware that their prize, 2 alien sisters, had slipped through their fingers. But in the quiet of the freighter, with stars beginning to twinkle outside the bay doors, Jax, Lyra, and Tira shared a moment of calm. It was the start of something new. Something dangerous. Something amazing. And Jax knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. Because in space, trouble had a way of following you. And bounty hunters, as clever as humans could be, never gave up easily. The freighter hummed softly as it lifted off from Zalara Prime, slipping into the quiet of space. Stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewports, a calm contrast to the chaos they had left behind. But Jax knew better than to relax. Bounty hunters were persistent, and he had no doubt that the moment they realized their merchandise was gone, they would come after him. Lyra and Tira sat cross-legged on the floor of the cargo bay, still cautious but beginning to relax. Their alien senses allowed them to detect the smallest vibrations, and they could feel the subtle hum of the engines reverberating through the metal floor. So, where are we going? Tira asked, her voice quiet but curious. Somewhere safe, Jax replied. A place where we can plan our next move. And don't worry, I have a few tricks up my sleeve. Lyra tilted her head. Tricks? Jax grinned. Humans are good at thinking fast. Sometimes we make mistakes, but usually we find a way out. You'll see. Before the sisters could respond, a loud alert blared from the cockpit. Red lights flashed, and a synthetic voice called out, Unidentified vessels approaching. Hostile signature detected. Jax's grin didn't fade. The party has arrived. The sisters exchanged worried glances, but Jax's calm confidence was contagious. Don't worry. We've got this. Humans like me. We improvise. Peering through the cockpit viewports, Jax saw 3 sleek black ships closing in fast. Bounty hunters no doubt armed and ready. Jax activated the freighter's defensive systems, holographic decoys, ion pulses, and a few hidden smoke screens. Hold on tight, he shouted as the freighter lurched sideways, weaving through an asteroid field that loomed ahead. The freighter's engines roared and the stars twisted into streaks of light. Lyra and Tira held on to the edges of the cages, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and exhilaration. You humans are Fearless, Lyra said, almost in awe. Jax laughed. Or crazy. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. The freighter darted through narrow gaps between asteroids, using every twist and turn to shake the pursuing ships. But the bounty hunters were skilled, matching Jax's maneuvers almost perfectly. Tira leaned closer to Lyra. They will catch us. Not if Jax has a plan, Lyra whispered back. She looked at him, noticing the subtle glint of confidence in his eyes. He's clever. Trust him, and clever he was. Jax had no intention of outrunning them in a straight chase. He guided the freighter toward a massive asteroid with a jagged surface and a hollow cave system inside. A natural trap. The freighter slipped into the cave, its hull scraping lightly against the rocks. The bounty hunters followed, unaware that they were heading straight into a human-engineered trap. Inside the cave, Jax activated the freighter's hidden systems. Holographic decoys projected the ship's image across the cavern, while automated drones hovered silently, ready to disrupt the hunter's sensors. The pursuing ships fired lasers, but the beams were deflected by the drones and the jagged cave walls. Lyra and Tira watched in amazement. "This is incredible," Tira whispered. "Your species, so inventive." "Thank you," Jax said, puffing out his chest slightly. "We humans like to solve problems creatively. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we never give up." The bounty hunters, frustrated and confused, finally withdrew, their ships disappearing into the darkness of space. Lyra and Tira let out a collective sigh of relief, sinking into the floor with exhausted but grateful smiles. "You did it," Lyra said softly. "You saved us," Jax shrugged modestly. "Just doing my job. Humans help where they can. That's what we do." For the next few days, they stayed hidden in the asteroid cave, repairing the freighter and planning their next move. Lyra and Tira began to open up, sharing stories of their home planet, their culture, and the dangers they had faced in the black market trade. Jax listened carefully, impressed by their intelligence, bravery, and resilience. "You two are remarkable," he said one evening. "Most humans would never have survived what you've been through, but I can tell you've learned a lot. Strong, smart, adaptable, just like humans." Lyra smiled, a small, genuine expression. "You think humans are strong?" "Of course," Jax said. "We're messy, chaotic, and stubborn, but we never give up. And we help each other when it matters. That's what makes us human." The sisters exchanged a glance. For the first time, they felt a spark of trust, not just in Jax, but in humans in general. Maybe not all of them were greedy or cruel. Maybe some humans could be heroes. The next morning, Jax prepared to leave the asteroid cave. "We can't stay here forever," he said. "The hunters might come back, and we need a more permanent solution." Lyra and Tira followed him into the cockpit. "Where will we go?" Tira asked. Jax's eyes sparkled with determination. "We go somewhere safe, somewhere humans and aliens can work together. And along the way, we make sure the people who captured you pay for what they did." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Pay?" Jax grinned. "Exactly. Humans have a way of turning the tables. Let's just say they won't know what hit them." The freighter roared to life, engines humming with power. Stars stretched into streaks as they jumped into hyperspace, leaving Zalara Prime far behind. For the first time, the sisters felt true freedom. They were no longer prisoners, they were partners in an adventure, thanks to human courage, ingenuity, and a bit of luck. As they traveled, Lyra and Tira began to learn from Jax. He taught them navigation, basic engineering, and even some human customs. In turn, they shared their alien knowledge, helping improve the freighter's systems and offering insights that Jax had never imagined. "We make a good team," Lyra said one evening, watching the stars drift past. "Yeah," Jax agreed, smiling. "Humans and aliens. Different, but that's what makes us strong. Together we can face anything." And they would. Soon, they reached the outskirts of a hidden human-alien alliance outpost, a place where beings from many planets worked together to protect the innocent and fight injustice. It was perfect, safe, and full of opportunities to continue their adventure. Jax, Lyra, and Tira stepped out onto the platform, feeling the gentle gravity of the station beneath their feet. The outpost was alive with activity, humans, aliens, and robots working together in harmony. It was a vision of what the universe could be, diverse, united, and courageous. Lyra looked at Jax, her expression a mixture of gratitude and amazement. You humans are amazing," Jax chuckled. Not all of us, but some of us try our best. And some of us get lucky enough to meet extraordinary friends like you. Tira smiled shyly. Then we are friends? Absolutely, Jack said firmly. Partners in adventure, friends for life. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of trouble too. The sisters laughed, the sound echoing through the platform. It was light, warm, and full of hope. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and danger, but together they would face it. Humans had a way of surviving, thriving, and making the impossible possible. And now Lyra and Tira were part of that story. As they boarded the freighter to continue their journey, Jax glanced at the stars once more. The universe was vast, chaotic, and sometimes frightening, but it was full of wonder, friendship, and endless possibilities. And humans, he thought with pride, would always find a way to shine, no matter what. Because in the face of danger, in the heart of the unknown, humans could be clever, brave, and compassionate. They could face the universe with hope, and sometimes that was enough to change everything. And with two extraordinary alien sisters at his side, Jax knew that the adventure was only just beginning.